If you dare touch my husband's pillow one more time, I'll make sure you never work in healthcare again." The nurse's hands froze. She was just trying to help a dying man breathe easier, but the woman in the expensive green suit didn't care about that. Before we continue, let us know in the comments section, what time is it and where are you watching from? And remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the story. Now let's continue. Sarah Mitchell had been a nurse for 8 years. She had seen people die. She had seen people get better. She had held the hands of strangers who had no one else. But she had never seen anything like what happened that Tuesday afternoon. The day started normal. Sarah clocked in at 7 a.m., put on her blue scrubs, tied her hair back in a neat bun, checked her patient list. Room 304 had a new patient. His name was David Chen. He came in the night before with a heart attack. The note said he was stable but needed close watching. Sarah walked into his room at 8 a.m. to check his vitals. David was a nice man, maybe 50 years old, gray hair, kind eyes. He smiled when Sarah came in, even though anyone could see he was in pain. "Good morning," Sarah said softly. "I'm Sarah. I'll be taking care of you today." "Thank you," David whispered. His voice was weak. "I'm sorry to be trouble." "You're no trouble at all," Sarah assured him. She wrapped the blood pressure cuff around his arm. "That's what I'm here for." David's numbers were okay, not great, but okay. His heart was still struggling. Sarah made notes on her tablet. She adjusted his IV drip. She fluffed his pillow so he could breathe better. "Is there anything you need?" Sarah asked. "Just my phone," David said. "I need to call my office. Tell them I won't be in." Sarah handed him his phone from the bedside table. "Don't stress yourself too much, okay? Rest is the most important thing right now." David nodded, but Sarah could see worry in his eyes. She had seen that look before. Successful people hated being stuck in bed. They felt like the world would fall apart without them. Sarah left the room to check on her other patients. Everything changed at noon. Sarah heard the clicking of high heels before she saw her. The sound echoed down the hospital hallway. Click, click, click. Sharp and angry. Then she appeared. A woman in a dark green designer suit. Blonde hair pulled back tight, makeup perfect, jewelry that probably cost more than Sarah's car. She walked like she owned the building, like everyone should get out of her way. Behind her was a younger man in an expensive gray suit. He carried a briefcase and looked uncomfortable. The woman stopped at the nurse's station. "Where is David Chen's room?" she demanded. Not asked, demanded. The receptionist, Maria, looked up. "Room 304, down the hall to the—" The woman was already walking. She didn't wait for directions. The man in the gray suit hurried after her. Sarah was coming out of room 302 when she saw the woman push open the door to David's room. She didn't knock. She just walked right in. Sarah felt something cold in her stomach. She had a bad feeling about this. She heard the woman's voice through the door, loud, sharp. "David, what is the meaning of this? Do you know what chaos you've caused?" Sarah knocked gently and entered. "Excuse me, ma'am. The patient needs rest." The woman turned to look at Sarah. Her eyes were ice cold. "And who are you?" "I'm Sarah. I'm Mr. Chen's nurse." "Well, Sarah, I'm Victoria Chen, David's wife, and I need to speak with my husband alone." Victoria said the word alone while staring directly at Sarah. Sarah looked at David. He looked embarrassed, tired. He gave her a small nod that said it was okay. Sarah left the room, but she stayed close just in case. Through the door, Sarah could hear Victoria's voice getting louder. "The board meeting is tomorrow, David, tomorrow, and you're lying here like—" "I had a heart attack, Victoria," David said quietly. "Yes, well, maybe if you took better care of yourself instead of working yourself to death—" "I always said I didn't work hard enough." There was silence. Then Victoria spoke again, quieter, but meaner. "James brought the contracts. You need to sign them. The Singapore deal closes Friday." "I can barely hold a pen right now." "That's not my problem, David. Do you know how much money is on the line?" Sarah walked away. She didn't want to hear more. It made me sad. David was a sick man. He needed support and love, not stress about business deals. An hour later, Sarah had to go back into the room. It was time to check David's vitals again and give him medication. She knocked softly and entered. Victoria was still there, sitting in the chair by the window. The man in the gray suit, James, stood near the door with papers spread on the rolling table. David looked exhausted. His face was pale, sweat on his forehead. "Excuse me," Sarah said. "I need to check on Mr. Chen." Victoria didn't move. She just watched with those cold eyes as Sarah approached the bed. Sarah checked the heart monitor. David's heart rate was too high. The stress wasn't good for him. "Mr. Chen, your heart rate is elevated," Sarah said gently. "I need you to try to stay calm. Take some deep breaths for me." She reached over to adjust his pillow. David was slipping down in the bed and it was making it harder for him to breathe. That's when it happened. "Don't touch that." Victoria's voice cut through the room like a knife. Sarah turned. "I'm sorry." Victoria stood up. She walked over to the bed. "I said, don't touch that. I just arranged those pillows the way David likes them." Sarah blinked. "Ma'am, with respect, Mr. Chen needs to be positioned properly to help his breathing, and if you touch my husband's pillow one more time, I'll make sure you never work in healthcare again." The words hung in the air like poison. Sarah felt her face get hot, not from anger, from shock, from the unfairness of it all. James, the man with the briefcase, looked down at his papers, uncomfortable. David tried to speak. "Victoria, stop! She's just doing her—" But Victoria wasn't done. She turned to James. "Are you getting this? I want her name, her supervisor's name. I want documentation of everything." James looked miserable. He pulled out his phone and started typing. Sarah felt tears pushing at the back of her eyes, but she wouldn't cry, not in front of this woman. The door opened. 2 security guards walked in. Behind them was Dr. Peterson, the attending physician. "What's going on here?" Dr. Peterson asked. Victoria pointed at Sarah. "This nurse was rude to me. She refused to follow my instructions regarding my husband's care. I want her fired immediately." Dr. Peterson looked at Sarah. Sarah looked back at him. They had worked together for 5 years. He knew she was good at her job. "Mrs. Chen, nurses follow medical protocols, not family instructions. Are you defending her?" "I'm explaining hospital policy." Victoria pulled out her phone. "We'll see about that." She dialed a number, put the phone to her ear. "Richard, it's Victoria Chen. Yes, I'm at the hospital with David. There's been an incident. I need you to—" "Yes, room 304. Thank you." She hung up and smiled. It was not a nice smile. "The hospital director is on his way. We'll sort this out properly." The next 20 minutes were the longest of Sarah's life. She stood outside the room while Victoria stayed inside with David. James paced in the hallway. The security guards waited awkwardly. Dr. Peterson made phone calls. Other nurses walked by. They whispered. They looked at Sarah with worry and sympathy. Maria from the front desk came over. "What happened?" "I don't want to talk about it." "Is it true Victoria Chen threatened you?" "News travels fast."
Everyone knows the Chens. They're like royalty around here. All that donation money. Sarah felt sick. Was that how it worked? Rich people could treat staff like garbage because they wrote checks? Finally, the hospital director arrived. Richard Morrison, 50 years old, expensive suit, political smile. He walked past Sarah without looking at her, went straight into room 304. Sarah could hear voices inside. Victoria's voice, high and angry. Dr. Peterson's voice, calm and explaining. Richard Morrison's voice, smooth and careful. After 10 minutes, the door opened. Richard Morrison came out first. He looked at Sarah. "Nurse Mitchell, please come with me to my office." Sarah's heart sank. This was it. She was going to lose her job. All because she tried to help a patient breathe. They walked through the hospital in silence, past the cafeteria, past the elevators, to the administrative wing where the offices had carpets and nice furniture. Richard Morrison's office was big, windows overlooking the city, leather chairs, a desk that probably cost more than Sarah's yearly salary. "Sit down," he said. Sarah sat down. Her legs felt weak. Richard Morrison sat behind his desk. He folded his hands. He looked at her with serious eyes. "Tell me what happened." Sarah told him everything. She didn't leave anything out. She explained about David's elevated heart rate, about needing to adjust his position, about Victoria's threats. Richard Morrison listened. His face showed nothing. When Sarah finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Victoria Chen is a major donor to this hospital." Sarah's heart dropped. "She and her family have given millions over the years. They're on our advisory board. They attend our fundraising galas. They're important people." Sarah nodded slowly. She understood. Money was more important than right and wrong. "However," Richard Morrison continued, "this hospital has policies. We have standards of care, and we have an obligation to protect our staff from harassment." Sarah looked up, surprised. Mrs. Chen was out of line. Threatening a staff member is completely unacceptable, regardless of how much money someone has donated. "So, I'm not fired?" "Fired? No. You followed protocol. You advocated for your patient. That's exactly what you should have done." Sarah felt relief wash over her like cool water. "What happens now?" she asked. "I'm going back to room 304. I'm going to have a conversation with Mrs. Chen about appropriate behavior in a hospital setting. If she doesn't like it, she can move her husband to another facility." Richard Morrison stood up. "Go take your break, Nurse Mitchell. You've had a difficult morning." Sarah walked back toward the nurse's station in a daze. She couldn't believe it. She had won. Sort of. But when she got to the break room, she saw 3 other nurses watching something on a phone. "Oh my God, Sarah, you need to see this," one of them said. They showed her the screen. It was security camera footage from room 304. Someone had pulled it, and it was already spreading through the hospital staff group chat. Sarah watched herself trying to adjust David's pillow, watched Victoria stand up and threaten her, watched the whole ugly scene play out. "Who posted this?" Sarah asked. "Nobody knows, but it's everywhere now." Sarah felt dizzy. This was going to make everything worse. She was right. By 2 p.m., the video had spread beyond the hospital. Someone had posted it online. By 4 p.m., it had 10,000 views. By 6 p.m., it was on the local news. "Hospital nurse threatened by a wealthy donor's wife" was the headline. Sarah's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Friends texting her mom calling, her sister sending news links. The hospital was in chaos. Reporters were trying to get into the building. The security desk was turning people away. The hospital director was giving statements to the press. And somewhere in all of that noise, Sarah realized she hadn't checked on David in hours. She went back to room 304. Victoria was gone, so was James with his briefcase. David was alone. He looked small in the hospital bed, old and tired and sad. "I'm so sorry," he said when he saw Sarah. Sarah came to his bedside. "It's not your fault." "Victoria, she's not usually like that." "Well, actually, she is. I just always made excuses for her." David's eyes were wet, not from pain, from something deeper. "We've been married for 25 years, he said quietly. "I built my business from nothing. I worked hard, made money, gave her everything she wanted. Big house, nice cars, vacations. I thought that was what mattered." Sarah adjusted his IV drip, checked his heart rate. It was better now. Calmer. "But I never noticed when she changed. Or maybe she was always like this and I didn't want to see it. She became someone who thinks money makes her better than other people. Someone who can be cruel to someone like you who was just trying to help me." "Mr. Chen..." "David, please call me David. David, you need to rest. Don't upset yourself. I've been lying here all day thinking, that heart attack? Maybe it was a message.
Maybe it was telling me to wake up, to look at my life and see what's really there. Sarah didn't know what to say. She was a nurse, not a therapist. But she could see that David needed to talk. You were kind to me this morning. You treated me like a person, not like a wallet. Victoria hasn't treated me like a person in years. Sarah squeezed his hand gently. I'm sorry you're going through this. I'm the one who's sorry. You could lose your job because of my wife. The director said I'm not fired. That's good. That's really good. David closed his eyes. But it's not enough. The next morning, Sarah came into work nervous. She didn't know what to expect. The video had gone viral overnight. 5 million views. National news, people on the internet were calling Victoria Chen every bad name you can imagine. There were reporters camped outside the hospital. Sarah had to sneak in through the back entrance. When she got to the nurses' station, everyone was talking. Did you hear? It's insane. He actually did it. Did what? Sarah asked. Maria showed her a news article on her tablet. The headline read, Billionaire David Chen divorces wife, fires entire board, announces major hospital donation in nurse's name. Sarah's hands went numb. She read the article. It said that David Chen, who wasn't just rich, but actually a billionaire, had announced from his hospital bed that he was divorcing Victoria. He was also stepping down as CEO of his company to focus on his health, and he was donating $5 million to the hospital specifically for a nursing education fund. The fund was going to be called the Sarah Mitchell Compassionate Care Program. Sarah couldn't breathe. He named it after you, Maria said. After you! Sarah ran to room 304. She had to know if this was real. David was sitting up in bed. He looked better, color in his face, strength in his eyes. Is it true? She asked. David smiled. Good morning to you, too. The news story. Is it real? Every word. David, you can't. That's too much. I don't deserve.
Stop, David said firmly. You do deserve it. You deserve respect. You deserve recognition. You deserve to never have to worry about someone like Victoria threatening your job again. But $5 million is nothing compared to what you gave me. Sarah shook her head. I just did my job. No, you did more than that. You showed me what real kindness looks like. You showed me that there are still people in the world who care about others more than money or status. You reminded me of who I used to be before I let success turn me into someone who would marry a woman like Victoria. David reached for a folder on his bedside table. He handed it to Sarah. What's this? She asked. Open it. Inside were legal documents. Sarah didn't understand most of the words, but she saw her name. She saw numbers with a lot of zeros. I set up a trust fund, David explained, for you. It's separate from the hospital donation. This is yours. You can pay off your student loans, buy a house, take a real vacation, whatever you want. I can't accept this. You can, and you will, because I'm a billionaire. And once I decide to do something, it gets done. David was smiling, but his eyes were serious. You saved more than my life yesterday, Sarah. You saved my soul. You reminded me that how we treat people matters, that kindness matters, that respect matters. Money can't buy those things, and money definitely can't buy class. Sarah felt tears running down her face. Happy tears this time. Thank you, she whispered. No, Sarah, thank you. The story spread around the world. Victoria tried to fight the divorce, but David's lawyers were better. She tried to claim half of everything, but the prenup was ironclad. She tried to give interviews playing the victim, but nobody believed her. The video showed who she really was. David recovered from his heart attack. He stepped back from his business. He started showing up at the hospital to volunteer. He sat with patients who had no family. He learned their names. He listened to their stories. He became the person he should have been all along. Sarah continued working as a nurse. The trust fund money was sitting in an account. She didn't touch it for months. It felt too big, too scary. But eventually, she used some of it to pay off her loans. She took her mom on a vacation to Hawaii. She donated some to other nurses at the hospital who were struggling. The Sarah Mitchell Compassionate Care Program became one of the best nursing education funds in the country. It helped hundreds of nurses go back to school. It provided scholarships to nursing students who couldn't afford tuition. It changed lives. But the biggest change was in how people treated healthcare workers at that hospital. The video had shown the world what nurses deal with: the disrespect, the threats, the way some people think money makes them better. After that day, things were different. Patients were kinder, families were more respectful, and if anyone stepped out of line, security was called immediately, no matter how much money they had. Because at the end of the day, one thing became clear: money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy class, it can't buy kindness, it can't buy the right to treat people like they're less than human. Victoria learned that lesson the hard way. And David? Well, David learned that the best things in life aren't things at all. They're moments. They're connections. They're the way a nurse treats you with dignity when you're at your lowest point. 6 months later, Sarah saw David at the hospital. He was volunteering in the children's wing, reading stories to sick kids. He looked healthier, happier, free. He saw Sarah and waved. She waved back. And in that simple gesture, there was everything that mattered: respect, gratitude, shared humanity. Money didn't save David's life that day in room 304. Kindness did. So what do you think? Should Victoria have been held accountable sooner? Could David have stood up to her earlier? How would you have handled being in Sarah's position? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button for more emotional, real-life stories that remind us what really matters in life. New stories every day. See you in the next one.